Alright, so now let's take a look at our scene window and our game window. So in our scene window, we will be making all our changes. If you want to add anything to your game, you would be doing it in your scene window. You can drag and drop different types of game objects in here. Anything that you want will be done within the scene window. Now, to navigate around this scene window, let's take a look at some of the keyboard shortcuts that we're going to be using. So you can hold down your middle mouse button to essentially pan around, and you can just grab the scene and just hold your middle mouse button and just drag it around up and down, left and right. Now if you want to focus in on a certain object, you can select it in your hierarchy. So right now I have my player selected, and I can just press F to zoom in on him. So if let's go ahead and zoom out a bit. If we're way over here and we're trying to locate a certain object in our hierarchy, we can select it. I'm going to go ahead and select my player and just press F to zoom in. Now you want to make sure that your cursor is actually in the scene window, otherwise it won't work. But this will help us to actually quickly zoom in on an object. Now if you want to rotate around an object, you can hold your Alt key and then left click and just drag around. You can go under him, go around him, so on and so forth. Now if you just want to take a look around, you can hold your right click button and just drag it around to take a look around. And then you can zoom in and zoom out with your scroll wheel on your mouse. So that is the basics of navigating in your scene window. Let's take a look at our different drop-down menus here. So up here we have a textured. This gives us our textured models here. You can select wireframe. You can see everything turns into a wireframe. Then you go down to textured wire. This gives us basically our first two options together. We have textures and wireframe mode selected. And then we have render paths and light map resolution. Alright, and then right next to that we have our RGB. We have alpha, overdraw, and bitmaps. Alright, and then the next one will actually be a little bit hard to see in this project, but this is our lighting toggle. This will basically toggle on our lighting within the scene window. Now since we have a bunch of different lighting already in our game, you're not going to see much of a difference, but this essentially gives us lighting in our scene window if we don't already have it. So if you turn this off, you'll be able to see what the game actually looks like with all the lighting that's in it. Basically what the player is going to be seeing when they actually play the game. So if you don't have any lights in your scene, you can go ahead and just quickly toggle this on, and it'll actually turn on some artificial type of lighting that's only available within your scene window. Alright, so right next to that we have our skybox toggle. Now these toggles on our skybox, our fog, and our lens flare effects. So I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to rotate upwards, and you can see that we have this texture over here that's our sky. So if I don't want to see that, I can go ahead and uncheck this and everything turns into a grid. Now if we had fog or any types of lens flare effects, those will also be hidden. So if you don't want to see those things, or if you want to quickly hide them, just go ahead and uncheck that. Alright, and then finally we have our audio toggle, which is this little icon right here. Now this is good if you have a audio clip that's constantly playing in the background. You want to make sure that you uncheck this if you don't want to hear it. Alright, and then finally we have our gizmos drop down. So let's take a look at some of our gizmos. Our gizmos are essentially these little icons that you see all over a game. This just helps us to visibly see where these different types of objects are. So over here we have a camera, down here we have a light object, and then if we zoom in over here we can see we have a sound clip object over here. So if you click the drop down, you can see that we can increase the size of these or decrease the size of them. And it just makes it a little bit easier to see where these are located. And once again, you can uncheck them here if you don't want to see them. So that is the scene window. Let's take a look at the game window. Now the game window is the window where we will be playing our game. So there's no changes that can be made within the game window. Let's go ahead and hit play. And we can play our game now. And one thing to note, if you hit play and say you make a change in your script over here, I'm going to change this to 1, press enter. Now if I hit play again, you can see that camera preview reverted back to A2. And the way that works is if you're in the play mode and you make any changes, it'll automatically revert to where it was before. So if you make any changes and you want them to stick, you want to make sure that you're not in play mode. Making any changes within play mode is just to essentially test things out. So that is the game window, how to play it. And let's take a look at the different drop-down menus for our game window. So right here we have free aspect. Now this gives us options to try out different types of screen ratios. So we have 6:9, 16:9, we have 3:2, 4:3, and so on and so forth. Now this just helps us to see what our game is going to look like in different screen ratios. So I'm going to go ahead and select free aspect. And then finally we have maximize on play. If we select this, it'll essentially maximize this window once we hit play. So if I hit play, you can see that this whole window is now selected. And once we hit play again, it goes back to its original size. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. Then we have stats. This gives us our statistics of our game. Basically how many frames per second, how many draw calls and all that stuff. This is very useful for finding out the efficiency of your game. So you can have that under the stats menu right here. Alright, then finally we have gizmos. Same thing as before for our scene window. This just allows us to see them within our game window. Alright, so that is the basics of navigating within your scene window and how to use the game window.